I wanted to talk to you about writing The Children of Jocasta. The process of writing a historical novel, an ancient historical novel particularly, I think, is one of far more research than ever makes it onto the page. It looks, I hope, like a real world. If you don't know the detail, you can't make the reader discover it. The basis of it is the Oedipus and Antigone stories. And so I wanted it to feel very much that it was in Thebes, but of course there's very little left in Thebes that you can think of or go to. And so I had to both build Thebes out of my imagination, which obviously means stealing it from other places. There's a bit of Mycenae lurking in my Thebes, there's a bit of Knossos, but not too much, because I wanted to keep it not fully Sophoclean, but a little Sophoclean. The palace is the main location. Almost all of the novel is set in the royal house of Thebes. And as the book goes on, the location gets smaller. The space that one of the characters, Ismene, can use gets smaller and smaller. So I built the palace in my mind as having a big public kind of courtyard space. This is very much from Knossos. So there's a big kind of public courtyard that is the liminal space in any Sophoclean play where public and private overlap. And then there is a sort of, for want of a better phrase, like a business courtyard where the business which is transacted by the royals happens, and then a private, a sort of withdrawn, a family courtyard, almost like women's quarters, but where the whole family live, because obviously we're in the Bronze Age rather than in 5th century Athens. And Ismene's access becomes increasingly reduced as the book goes on. When Oedipus and Jocasta meet, in my version, for the first time, when she sees him, he should be gorgeous to her, you know, because she is 33, but he is 16, 17, so he must be beautiful and golden, and he's come across the mountains to get, and so he should look delicious. When she sees him, it's going to be sexually charged. It should be, at least. And she'll compare him. He'll look luscious and young, and in her mind she will compare him to what? And I thought, well, it would have to be fruit, right? Because that would be the single sweetest thing. And I thought, and I realised it had to be an apricot, because he is sort of golden, and apricots are, you know, at the risk of sounding like Hannibal Lecter, they are slightly fleshy. I mean, they're golden and they have sort of slight fuzz on them. So there is that sort of element of human flesh to them, I say, as a vegetarian. And I thought, well, apricots it is. And of course, I did my homework and found out that apricots weren't cultivated till 1,000 years after this book is set. This is the only library I used to write this book. It's the only library I'll use for the next book too, because brutally, if you are a classicist, it has pretty much everything you require. It's also where you can find the text so that you can check the different versions of the myth, from how it shifts from Homer through Sophocles through Ovid, for example, because I have played fast and loose with the myth, because, to be fair to me, Sophocles played fast and loose with the myth. Every version of the myth plays fast and loose with the myth. Every version of myth, I think, has kind of two timelines at play, the one in which it's set and the one in which it's written. So the Sophoclean version of the Oedipus story is, a lot of it, I think, is about determinism and free will, which obviously are philosophical debates which are happening at that sort of time. With gods, and particularly Jocasta's relationship with the gods, and particularly Jocasta's relationship with oracles and prophecies and things for the future, it is astonishing to me. Only when you go back to Sophocles in this instance do you see how very questioning she is. You know, there's a really early on in the play when Oedipus kind of reveals that he's worried that there's this prophecy that he would kill his father and marry his mother. She says, oh, you don't want to believe in prophecies? Oh, no, terrible idea. I was once told this stupid prophecy that I would, you know, have a son who would grow up to kill his father and marry me, and that's definitely not happened. And we watch it like, oh, it's right there, please. But she is extremely sceptical. She is extremely sceptical of the idea that the gods tell the truth. When she lost her child, the child that would turn out to be Oedipus, the loss of that baby pushes her into a sort of madness, which portrays itself in a sort of ritualistic belief. So she becomes incredibly superstitious and incredibly anxious, and she has to keep asking questions of the oracle and keep trying to find out if the baby survived, if the baby died, you know, what she can do, will he return to her? And that kind of constant anxious reiteration, it's a type of obsessive compulsive disorder. For me, anyway, that's what her her version of religion is. And of course, when she eventually becomes happy, when she meets this lovely man, this lovely much younger man, and marries him, and they have children, her need for the gods disappears again. That ebbs away, because she doesn't require it. Her anxiety ebbs away, and her belief ebbs away accordingly. But perhaps that's a little anachronistic, because I don't think, to be fair, that the Greeks were not very keen on believing in the gods. I think they just didn't think we could access them. But who knows, perhaps she was a Protagorean agnostic like I am. It is a strange thing trying to tell a story that you know really well, until you realise there are so many versions of the story that actually making the choice is almost exactly the same as making it up. That there is no right version of a myth. And it's an incredibly freeing thing to realise. So I say to you, you don't have to read my book, but you do have to go to the library if you're planning to write a book. It is literally the only way.